Level 1. What is Tokusatsu? Before we get into this iceberg, the Japanese term Tokusatsu literally translates to special effects filming. They're generally dramas with a big focus on those effects, which started as purely practical effects, later evolving alongside new technological advancements to enhance said practical effects with CGI. The modern term for Tokusatsu has evolved itself to be more of a style of filmmaking than being literal, since special effects only refers to things done in real life, with visual effects being the term for things added in post like CGI. Tokusatsu is now a medium with its own subcategories, such as Kaiju Eiga, Henshin Heroes, and so much more that we'll see in this iceberg, encompassing all types of genre and tone. While me and my team are going to be talking about a lot of Tokusatsu in this video, please forgive us for not bringing up literally every Tokusatsu ever made. Some entries will also be shorter than others, but we will try to at least give a brief overview. With that said, let's start with the most obvious Tokusatsu, Power Rangers. From teenagers with attitude to still saving the human race in outer space over 30 seasons later, Saban's, Disney's, Hasbro's Power Rangers is a franchise that needs no introduction. It's so iconic that if you showed some random person on the street most of the Tokusatsu in this video, then they'd most likely ask, "Is this Power Rangers?" And please watch more than Mighty Morphin, I'm begging you. Super Sentai. Before Power Rangers, there was Toei's Super Sentai, beginning in 1975 with Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, and still going on today. A lot of elements you recognize from Power Rangers originated here. Different color teams, giant robots fighting giant monsters, new characters, suits, and design motifs every season, and so on. Super Sentai tends to have big differences from its adapted counterparts, so if you enjoyed a particular Power Ranger season in the past, then I'd suggest trying out a Sentai counterpart too. Kamen Rider. The big brother to Super Sentai, Toei's Kamen Rider, created by legendary mangaka Shotaro Ishinomori, began in 1971, and is also going strong today. Kamen Rider tends to focus more on a smaller cast and sometimes more quote-unquote mature storytelling. But don't kid yourself, it's still very much meant mostly for children. The vibe is almost completely different as we get lone heroes fighting on the ground level against other evil organizations. The Ultra series. Super Sentai had teams and giant monsters, but the Ultra series came long before even that. Ultraman is a giant of light from Nebula M78, who bonds with or takes the form of a human on Earth. Should a monster or alien threaten the peace, the human transforms into Ultraman to deal with them. There's also an Earth defense team in there somewhere usually. Originally starting with Ultra Q in 1966, a sci-fi anthology series which didn't have Ultraman at all, the series is considered one of the big three alongside Super Sentai and Kamen Rider with how popular they are. Plus Ultraman is still airing today, and is super accessible online and on physical media. The Ultra series was created by Eiji Tsuburaya, the special effects director of the original Godzilla. Toho's Godzilla is a character in Media Empire that also needs no introduction. You know who Godzilla is. I know who Godzilla is. Pretty much everyone on the planet knows who Godzilla is. Being officially recognized as the largest film franchise in the history of cinema, there's a Godzilla movie out there for everyone. Whether you like serious allegorical takes, campy monster-on-monster action, high-concept sci-fi, or Hollywood popcorn flicks, there really is so much. While the series has moved away from this recently, it pioneered the technique of suitmation, something essentially every tokusatsu made after it utilizes. Let's just say the whole media landscape we currently live in may not exist if it wasn't for the giant radioactive dinosaur. King Kong. If you've heard of the King of the Monsters, then you've probably also heard of the creature that inspired it, the giant ape god of Skull Island, King Kong. A perfect example of seeing tokusatsu's evolution through stop motion to suitmation to CGI. Over the course of 90 years, starting as a misunderstood ape climbing skyscrapers and ogling blondes, to humanity's hero fighting alongside Godzilla, Kong continues to be one of cinema's most famous creations. Ameritoku. First off, with literally hundreds of tokusatsu to cover, we will be grouping several into one entry. Our first group is Ameritoku, or American Tokusatsu. Since tokusatsu, especially Henshin Heroes, originated in Japan, other countries tend to take that medium and turn it into a vibe of their own. The biggest example of this is America making our own tokusatsu. Even before suitmation was popularized, tokusatsu portraying creatures through stop-motion animation can be seen in American productions as far back as the late 1920s. The general public may not know them as such, but several popular contemporary franchises are tokusatsu, or at the very least, toku-inspired. Early 90s superhero movies, other Saban shows that we'll get to later, Pacific Rim, Star Trek, Cloverfield, The Thing, RoboCop, live action, TMNT, the Monsterverse, they all fall under the Tokusatsu umbrella, including other Tokusatsu. By technicality, basically any drama that includes special effects could be Tokusatsu. Heck, putting myself on a green screen and adding an explosion could, by a very, very extreme technicality, count. However, going beyond Japanese and American Tokusatsu, there are shows that fit the feel of the medium. Doctor Who. The Shin Japan Heroes Universe movies. Movie remakes of Evangelion, Godzilla, Ultraman, and Kamen Rider, headed by Hideaki Anno, original creator of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Shinji Higuchi, an Evangelion screenwriter with a lot of experience working on Tokusatsu productions, such as directing the live-action Attack on Titan movies. These movies retell stories based off the first entry of each respective series, all under the united moniker of Shin, meaning new. These movies have been very well received, and every entry has received a US theatrical release, as well as now being up for purchase or streaming on Amazon Prime Video. The Shin Japan Heroes Universe title has basically only been used for marketing purposes, and so they can sell branded merch like this Combiner mech toy. By the way, these aren't actually a connected cinematic universe. They just share visual style and main creative staff members. Do you know how much paperwork it would take for a proper crossover or something? Stop listening to Reddit. LOL. Gamera. Friend to all children and guardian of the universe. Dai's Gamera is a giant turtle who you've likely seen in discussion of giant monsters. Starting in 1965 and having an animated Netflix series as recently as 2023, Gamera has a history as deep as his cinematic rival Godzilla. Many fans even consider the Heisei Gamera trilogy to be some of the best tokusatsu media out there. Mothra. Another famous kaiju brought to life by the same team as Godzilla. Mothra, deity of Infant Island, is a friendly monster, most of the time, who is pretty much always accompanied by her two fairy priestesses, the Shobijin. While she is mostly known to fight alongside the King of the Monsters, she debuted in her own solo movie in 1961 with another series of movies. Her latest appearance in the Monsterverse was fantastic. Toei's Spider-Man. Oh look, it's that show all those out-of-context clips come from. Made as part of Toei and Marvel's collaborative efforts in 1978, this series has lived on in infamy for being a wildly different interpretation of the Spider-Man character, and all the memed moments that have come from it. Regardless, it's a pretty important series for introducing certain elements that would be adopted by Super Sentai, mainly the giant robot battles. I would wholeheartedly suggest actually watching this series itself, by the way. The out-of-context clips compilations don't do this unironically good show any justice. Is there a Tokusatsu show you haven't heard of before on this iceberg but you're interested in it? Let us know in the comments below. Now let's get back to it. Level 2. Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. An American adaptation of Kamen Rider Ryuki developed by Steven and Mike Wang. A search for his father drags Kid Taylor into a fight for survival against General Xaviax and his rider recruits. He transforms into Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, along with Len, Kamen Rider Wing Knight, in order to stop Xaviax. Despite the other Kamen Rider adaptation, this show managed to be pretty well done with even some of its own original footage. Unfortunately, it's nearly impossible to find any official releases of the show, so you can watch it on YouTube for free. Garo. Where there is light, shadows lurk and fear reigns, yet by the blade of night, mankind was given hope. Garo is a golden knight that fights nightmares called horrors. This is an ongoing series starting in 2005 that was meant entirely for adults, where the human drama and romance come first before the henshin hero aspect. It's had several hiatuses throughout the years, but it does have a very large library of shows and movies. If you want something different from the big three, then Garo is a very easy recommendation. Plus, pretty much all of it is on YouTube and Blu-ray, so there's no excuse. Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. While known as an anime and manga first, Sailor Moon had a tokusatsu show in 2003. It retells the first arc from the manga, but in live action, and with some differences that make it worth the watch even if you've read or seen any other Sailor Moon media. Truthfully, I personally don't know too much about Sailor Moon in general, but I do enjoy this one enough, purely by how, ironically, animated it all feels. Manasenki Ryukendo. Kenji Narukami is a newcomer to Akebono City, where it gets attacked by the demon army Jamanga. He takes on the powers of Ryukendo and fights alongside Ryuguno to fight them. Produced by Takara and sponsored by Capcom in 2006, Ryukendo is fairly episodic and tons of fun. I was mostly surprised by just how funny it was. Definitely worth the watch. Saban's other tokusatsu. If you or someone you knew grew up in the 90s with Power Rangers, then they most likely know of Saban Entertainment's other shows, Big Bad Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, Mystic Knights of Tirnanog, Masked Rider, and so on. All of these, aside from Mystic Knights, were adapted from Japanese shows much like Power Rangers. They vary in quality from great to, let's forget that even existed. But if you like 90s cheese, then you'll have a lot of fun with these. Hey, that rhymed. Gridman and Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Tsubudaya's 1993 series, Denko Chojin Gridman, aka Gridman the Hyper Agent, sees Naoto, a computer geek, merge with Gridman, an electronic police officer, to combat the monsters. And the pettiest Toku villain around, Takeshi Todo, in cyberspace, whose attacks can affect technology in the real world. The English adapted version, entitled Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, was, let's say, not so subtly trying to ride the coattails of Power Rangers, all the way down to the characters and plots being near identical. Nowadays, the franchise is more well known to a larger audience than ever, thanks to Tokusatsu anime / Toku adjacent. Tokusatsu, by definition, has to be live action. Even if productions such as the Shin series heavily use CG, they're still filmed with real actors and places. However, animations can be inspired by Tokusatsu, and there are some shows that are close enough to be Toku, which are often referred to as being Toku adjacent. Some popular Tokusatsu adjacent shows include Gundam, Symphogear, the magical girl genre as a whole, and of course, anime based on already existing Toku like Garo, Gridman, Ultraman, and Futo Pi. Again, Tokusatsu has to be live action, but you'll certainly see its inspiration in animation. Metal Heroes. While Kamen Rider was airing off and on again through the 80s and 90s, Toei made the Metal Hero series to take up its spot. They definitely aren't as popular as its big brother, but many of its shows are still loved. The Space Sheriff and Rescue Police trilogies, Metalder, Jiraiya, one of my personal favorites, Jan Person, the B-Fighter trilogy, and much more. If you love Showa-era Tokusatsu, especially Kamen Rider, then you'll enjoy these too. Toei attempted to revive Metal Heroes through appearances and other modern Tokusatsu, but unfortunately, it didn't take off. I will say, the New Generation Space Sheriff trilogy has to be one of my favorite Toku of all time. Zone Fighter. A Toho-produced giant hero series from 1973. A family of refugees from the destroyed planet Peaceland settle on Earth and defended from the villainous Garogas and their army of terror beasts. Literally the only reasons people know about this show is how much it seemingly rips off 1972's Ultraman Ace, and that Godzilla, King Ghidorah, and Gigan show up in it, with the series being confirmed part of the official Showa-era Godzilla timeline. What? Rodan. The first traditional giant monster movie from Toho after Gojira and Godzilla raids again. A giant egg with a pteranodon-like monster hatches and quickly grows to cause destruction, before it and its mate meets their end in a volcanic eruption. The character of Rodan, like Mothra, would become a mainstay in the Godzilla series, appearing as recently as 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters. Segata Sanshiro. Wait, why is he here? Whatever, I'll make an exception this time. So Segata Sanshiro was a mascot of the Sega Saturn in Japan during the latter part of the system's life, played by the original Kamen Rider himself, Hiroshi Fujioka. The wandering martial artist would travel the land and find anyone who dared to not be playing a Saturn, often with violent results. The character of Segata Sanshiro may be gone now after he blew up in the final commercial, but he'll always live on in our hearts. What do you mean he came back? Level 3. Legend Hero. A Korean tokusatsu based on Romance of the Three Kingdoms, with a henshin hero twist, following people participating in a dream battle to make their wishes come true. Whether you know the original story or not, this show is absolutely fantastic on its own, having fantastic action, a wonderful cast, and best of all, it's subbed for free on YouTube by its original producers. Voltus 5 Legacy. This anime was so big in the Philippines that it got a tokusatsu show in 2023, spanning 90 episodes and a compilation movie. Oh my gosh, just watch the opening and you already know you're in for a good time. This is almost as modern day tokusatsu as you can get. The whole show looks like it came out of the anime, so if you enjoyed that, you can't go wrong with this. Robocon / Roboti. Easily the most famous Toku character aimed at a very young target audience. Ishinomori and Toei's Ganbare Robocan sees the titular robot befriend and live with the family in order to become an A-class robot, where wacky hijinks ensue. The series led the charge for the robot comedy subcategory of tokushows, getting a revival, Moero Robocan, in 1999, being the show that bridged the gap between the end of the Metal Heroes franchise and the revival of Kamen Rider. Armor Hero. China's very own Henshin hero, Armor Hero is well loved and has been going on since 2008. The series can easily be compared to Kamen Rider and Metal Heroes, and yeah, you'd be right, but as most non-Japanese shows do, this has its own feel. A couple of seasons are available through YouTube, even with the dub, so if you love the suits or are a fan of Rider, then watch an episode or two of Armor Hero. Yeah, the suits really are that cool. Redman. One of Tsuburaya's many other tokushows, we have 1972's Redman. It's an extremely low-budget show with episodes lasting about 5 minutes, where the titular Redman is just going out beating up familiar Supro Kaiju. What you see is exactly what you get, but with its strangely eerie tone from the music to how the Kaijus often do nothing wrong but still get killed. It's led many to see Redman more as a sadistic villain than a hero. An English Redman comic was released in 2017 that plays with this interpretation. Cydrixar, a tokusatsu web series part of the Pink no Tokusatsu project created by Kamen Rider Decade actor Masahiro Inoue. Directed by Akihiko Tanabe, the show follows a girl named Ayaka who gets reincarnated into different worlds after being killed by a man named Cydrixar. Her mission is to collect the rev seals in each world that she is reincarnated to in order to save hers. It's a good show with some familiar actors you'll know if you watch Kamen Rider. And just as a note for my recurring viewers, this is the only time I will ever bring up this show, mainly because Masahiro Inoue promoted NFTs with this. And the same would go for any other show that has anything like that, so here's your one and only mention of Cydrixar on this channel. Local heroes. Japan loves their mascots, and each prefecture even has its own costume hero, whether unofficially, sponsored by a company, or even just some guy in a spray-painted Kamen Rider suit. Local heroes are beloved, and many have become popular enough to star in their own shows. This is the only exception as a group entry in the Iceberg, as whatever tokusatsu we talk about either has to be a show or a movie. The same will be reiterated about during Indie Toku later. Dogengers. The most popular show regarding local heroes from the Fukuoka prefecture, this follows a newcomer who must gather real-life local heroes and fight off the secretly evil syndicate, which is also a real-life company. If you're interested in the rabbit hole that are local heroes, then you can watch any of Dogengers' seasons, as it's an ongoing show featuring heroes of all kinds, plus it has cameos from plenty of Tokusatsu alumni. Los Luchadores. If pro wrestling and tokusatsu have huge crossover between fandoms, then this shouldn't be a surprise. Los Luchadores was a Fox Kids show that came out around the time Saban's other toku died out. I'm not sure what else to say. It's a luchador show with a surprisingly high production value. I'm not into wrestling, so watch if you are, I guess. Tomika Hero. A couple years following the success of Ryukendo, Takara Tomy produced a new series, Tomika Hero Rescue Force and Tomika Hero Rescue Fire. These are a bit higher budgeted toku shows focusing on teams saving people from natural disasters, but with giant vehicles. You might also recognize a few familiar faces. The Guyver 1 and 2. When Sean Barker stumbles across the Guyver unit, he forcefully transforms to fight off the Zoonoids. These are classic movies loosely adapting the anime and manga that came before it. The first Guyver leans into fantastic practical effects, while the second adapts the manga the closest. It also has Mark Hamill and Solid Snake. Bible Man. A Christian Henshin hero show focusing on the word of God while fighting off sins such as anger and jealousy. Okay, this actually sounds kind of cool. Bible Man had the budget of a ham sandwich at first, but it grew to have some pretty decent production over the years through different series, and even taken on an animated show. Mech X4. Disney XD's take on giant fighting robots. Mech X4 follows a kid who has special powers and awakens a mecha to fight off monsters. Fun characters, decent CG, and it has 4 seasons. Bima Satya Garuda. Rei is called upon to become the titular hero to defend against evil that plan to take Earth's resources. A collaboration between an Indonesian company called MNC and Japan's Ishinomori Productions. Bima does keep that writer feel and even continued on in Bima X, a movie and an animated series. Huh, lots of toku to anime, huh? Mirror Man. A sci-fi kyodai hero by Tsuburaya Productions. By the way, Kyodai Hero is another subgenre to the subgenre about giant fighting monsters, and heroes, of course. Tsuburaya is mostly known to make sci-fi tokusatsu, which is kind of like its own thing, but anyway, aside from that, yeah, this is kind of an obvious one. Mirror Man is a bit darker than you'd expect from their shows up to this point, even when compared to Ultra 7. Mirror Man is very Ultraman-esque, but holds its own with the darker themes and slower pacing. It also went on to have other shows such as Mirror Fight, Mirror Man Reflex, and a manga in 2021 to celebrate its 50th anniversary. Fireman. Giant mutated dinosaurs are attacking the planet, so it's up to the titular Fireman to grow and defeat them. Is this premise not enough for you? Like, dude, they're giant mutant monsters and aliens, but giant dinosaurs that spew lasers! Jumborg Ace. Aliens arrive on Earth, and one of the protective attacking team members gains the power to use Jumborg Ace. This is a slight twist, as the characters themselves don't become the Kyodai Hero. They pilot the robot that comes from their airplane. This is a personal favorite of mine. I really recommend this one, at least the first couple episodes to see if you're into it. Tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. Teenagers with attitude are given tattoos to grow giant and fight off monsters. Hey, wait. This was another one of the many shows riding off the Saban Toku train, but now made by Deke Entertainment. It's actually a lot of fun in that 90s cheese kind of way. I'm also glad we have more Maritoku in general. Why do they form a knight? Kikaider and Kikaider 01. Jito is an android created to combat the evil organization called Dark. Together with his guitar, Jito fights against Destructoids and learns more of his creator. 01 follows his brother as they both battle evil. This is one of the few shows that aired in syndication for the Hawaiian Islands. So, thanks Hawaii. You made this quite popular. The Hanuman Duology. 2 movies that combine a hell of a lot of Japanese footage with original footage of Hanuman. The first is Hanuman and the 5 Kamen Riders. The other is the Ultra Brothers versus the Monster Army. As expected, they're low budget, incredibly silly even for tokusatsu standards, and I am not the target audience for this. There's way too much history to go into over this one, so we'll just leave it at that. Live-action Tatsunoko movies. You've probably heard of classic anime such as Gatchaman and Hurricane Palomar, all of which are Tatsunoko properties. Over the years, some of their anime got adapted to live-action movies like those mentioned, plus Casshern and Yatterman. It's neat to see these come to life, but some are certainly better than others. I highly recommend the Palomar movie simply because it was directed by Koichi Sakamoto, and he's known to direct fantastic action. Inframan. In the far-off year of 2015, a demon princess awakens to attack China, so a scientist transforms a soldier into Inframan. This Hong Kong movie is a classic. You've probably even seen it referenced by other movie buffs. France 5. The Lexus Empire attacks Earth, and a new team is summoned to defend France. An obvious parody of Super Sentai, as it's meant to be extremely tongue-in-cheek, only having 6 episodes, but act as if they had a full season. This is one of the many what you see is what you get. If any of this interests you, then I guess check it out, but otherwise, you see the clips on screen? Good, you watch France 5. Mighty Martian Emo Rangers. Coming from Across the Pond is an old web show turned MTV show in the UK. Just like before, this is exactly 100% what you'd expect. A parody with lowbrow humor and tons of emo references. It is a bit nostalgic though, so oh my gosh, is that a bong monster? Spectre Man. From Nebula 71 comes a giant to help defend the Earth from giant apes. This is one of those old toku you'd see parodied countless times. While simple, it does have its charms. Don't expect anything life-changing though. Just some cool giant fights against apes. Inazuman. A phantom army unleashes phantom soldiers and mutants in Japan. A young man with a tragic past takes on the new enemy, starting as Sanage-man and evolving into Inazuman. One of Shotoru Ishinomori's other heroes that we'll get to further down. I personally think Inazuman has been a bit more popular since he's shown up a couple times in modern tokusatsu. Captain Ultra. After the success of Ultraman in 1966, Tsuburaya Productions took its spot with Captain Ultra, where the titular character protects outer space with his companions. Hey, wait a minute. While not as prevalent as the show before it, Captain Ultra has a cult following, and its use of backdrops are beautiful. To me at least. Hey, if you're liking the video so far, consider supporting us through Patreon or YouTube memberships. It would help my team of editors and writers to get more videos like this out to you guys. And trust me, even though this video did come out a lot faster than I thought it would, that was also because of a lot of endless hours of researching. So we appreciate you clicking on the video in the first place. Now let's get back to it. Level 4. Skullman. Before Kamen Rider, there was this one-shot manga by Shotaro Ishinomori, then later got adapted into a live-action movie as a prequel to the anime. Everything Skullman is generally edgy, and this is no different. Secret projects, evil organizations, a guy wearing a skull mask with tons of killing. Yeah, it's pretty edgy. I do kinda like this one though, if only cause it's neat to see a story like this through the eyes of a monster. Machine Man. A traveler from outer space lands on Earth, where he takes on the organization, Tentacle, then Octopus, as Machine Man. With all the good-looking CG for the time, this one is one of the most tokusatsu shows I've ever seen. Fushigi Comedy Series. A series of 14 comedy shows created by Toei for Fuji TV's Sunday morning block. These range from Mecha to Magical Girl series, parodying other tokusatsu. These ran from 1981 with Robot 8-chan to Keeping Word Sisters Chochotrian in 1993. Tokusatsu Gagaga. A drama following a young lady as she learns that it's okay to love what you love, even if others find it childish. The tokusatsu aspect is only about 10% of the overall show, as this really is a drama focusing on our main characters. Still worth the watch, especially if you're passionate about tokusatsu. Robot Detective. Meet Kei, star of the 1973 Ishinomori/Toei series Robot Detective. He's, well, a robot detective, who works alongside the human police forces to take on the crime syndicate known as BAD. Yes, really. You might be familiar with this character, given his recent appearance in Shin Kamen Rider. Lion Maru. Shishimaru is a ninja in feudal Japan who travels the land fighting evil spirit monsters with his 2 siblings, having the ability to transform into Lion Maru, often butting heads with his rival Tiger Joe along the way. The initial series, Kaiketsu Lion Maru, was followed by a direct sequel, Fun, before getting an edgy revival in the mid-2000s with Lion Maru G, aka the only one of the 3 you've likely heard of. Ninja Captor. Daisuke Izumo trains under the Fuma Ninja Clan, but defects to fight against them as part of the 7-member team known as Ninja Captor. This series was a product of Toei wanting having a second Sentai-like show to air alongside the incredibly popular Go Ranger, injecting it with some Kamen Rider-esque elements. For a while, many public sources like magazines erroneously claimed Ninja Captor to be part of the official Super Sentai series, but this was simply due to a lack of understanding and conflating the 2 shows into the same series, when they never actually were. Girl Gun Lady. A girl who puts together plastic models suddenly has her kit come to life and is thrown into the Girl Gun Fight Battle Royale. Surprisingly, coming from Bandai, this was advertised as another tokusatsu show made for adults. And you can also buy the model kits that were in the show. Girls Heroine. A series by Takara Tomy, which each season focusing on shoujo themes such as idols, magic, and police. It's a magical girl series. If you're into that, then you'll enjoy these too. Gyaras. Toei's very own Kaiju series. Big explosions, toy cinematography, and an okay time. Yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this one. Indie Tokusatsu. This category entry is about independent tokusatsu, which can be extremely broad, but I'm mainly stating that these aren't under a huge company like Toei or even Tsuburaya Productions. Like I said earlier, just recording something in your backyard could technically be considered tokusatsu, as you can see from these projects from regular people who put together some costumes and just started filming. Big shoutouts to anyone who even attempts to film anything like this. There are a few bigger indie tokusatsu I want to talk about, such as Jamingers. Let's jam with these music-themed heroes, as they're called upon by Maestro to use their music skills to defeat evil. If you like the cheesiness of early 90s Ameritoku and want a music sentai, then this is for you. Immortal Red Fox. This fox tells you to go fox yourself with these short episodes that are pure action, and is voiced by Johnny Young Bosch. The creator behind Immortal Red Fox also worked on Indie Toku Taisen, which celebrates Indie Toku as a whole. Orc. A stone with special powers leads a young man to see the future. Now he needs to stop another orc from having his friend face an unfortunate end. Filmed entirely with an iPhone and a lot of passion, this short film is available to watch for free on YouTube. Shibuya 15. Gangs are under watchful eyes as a mysterious man enters this world, protected by a woman who summons armor, and fights against another man named Peace. This show is all about the drama, with the henshin hero element kinda just thrown in there, but that's not a bad thing. Stay for the world building and enjoy the cool action. The Kagestar. A puppeteer transforms into the Kagestar to stop animal-themed villains while also growing giant and doing cool stunts. And none are in there. Bottom 1. 2 childhood friends are chosen to protect the world together by transforming together. Adapting a manga, this one has 2 child protagonists becoming this cool-looking hero. Henshin Ninja Arashi. Using the Ninja Henshin Jutsu, one ninja must face an evil clan leader in order to protect his people. Many consider this to be Ninja Kamen Rider, so if you like Showa-era Rider, then definitely check this one out. Toho Caesar Trilogy. Starting in 2003 with Choseishin Grand Caesar, this series is kind of like Toei's answer to Super Sentai. Colorful teams, the power of friendship, some pretty cool action scenes. Overall, very fun shows, though I personally like Just the Risers. Sacred Guardian Singa. Singa is an indie series from Singapore. Its origins start all the way back in 2006, but has only seen activity within the last few years with the release of postcards, a comic book, and a short preview. Kamen no Rider and V2. A comedic parody of Kamen Rider as a whole, with extremely exaggerated scenes and funny slapstick. This was made during a time Rider was changing directions, so it tried to be as Showa era as possible. I also just realized the title's katakana says Norida and not Noraida? Huh. Shogeki Goraigan. A young woman has the ability to see monsters, so she helps gather a group of them together to fight against a rising threat. Keita Memiya and Toshiki Inui work together on this raunchy, comedic, and overall strange, but very cool tokusatsu. Condor Man. A comic book writer is thrown into a secret agent conspiracy involving the CIA and KGB, all because he wanted to write a story called Condor Man. This is what happens when Disney makes tokusatsu not called Power Rangers. Gekko Kamen. Recognized as the first tokusatsu, Gekko Kamen took itself seriously with serialized dramas featuring a masked hero. While dated today, it still pioneered the superhero genre in Japan and should be respected for its strong themes. Kanpai Senshi After 5. This Sentai may defeat evil, but they're more known for their alcoholic after parties. It's a comedic parody that's all about the fun with the team, while being extremely self-aware. Highly recommend if not for having Kuga be the Red Ranger. Giga Tokusatsu. This company makes some surprisingly high-budgeted tokusatsu that stands on its own. They're meant to be taken as seriously as any other tokusatsu show, and you can definitely enjoy them, but the main thing to be aware of is that their director's cuts are just, Choko Senshi Changerion. A detective is accidentally turned into Changerion, and now faces against aliens who are absorbing human energy. Co-sponsored by This is a fun show, but unfortunately was cut down due to low ratings. You can find it officially on YouTube. The High School Heroes. A Go Ranger superfan is tasked to find a group of heroes to combat a looming threat. This should be seen as a drama first, since it amps up the high school level stories. The tokusatsu aspects are still there, but it is a little slow paced due to the drama. Still a very good show with powerful messages. Red Baron, Mach Baron, and Gun Baron. This entry is referring to the Baron series, 3 Super Robot series on Nippon TV. The first entry is Super Robot Red Baron, which began in 1973 and followed the titular robot hero battling against the Iron Mask Party, who abducts robots and their creators to use them for evil, with the help by the SSI, a defense team which pilots the Red Hero. This was followed in 1974 by Mech Baron, a direct sequel to Red that sees a whole new defense team and protagonist. The final series, Little Superman Gun Baron, is a completely new direction with a young reporter transforming into the mecha hero while maintaining his secrecy while battling kaiju. Daitetsujin 17. When a snowslide causes a young man and a member of a defense team to encounter an evil organization, they flee, only to be saved by the robot hero, Daitetsujin 17, who begins to battle against Brain's evil forces. Created by Ishinomori for Toei in 1977, this Super Robot series shares in many tropes with stories by the author. Death Kappa. Released in 2010, this has become a cult classic which sees a yokai from folklore grow huge and battle against another atomic beast. Returning to a traditional style of filming for its kaiju scenes, and utilizing comedy for its human story, this is a movie you will either love or hate. Dogora. Released in 1964, this film sees a diamond heist and police chase give way into an invasion of a giant cellular creature that seeks to eat highly concentrated carbon. This film is both a mix of a police drama as well as a daikaiju film. Japan Sinks. Based on the 1973 novel, this story has been adapted numerous times in various formats. The first, released also in 1973 under the name Submersion of Japan, sees a series of natural disasters set off a shift in Japan's landmass, with the islands quickly sinking into the sea as volcanic eruptions and earthquakes destroy efforts to escape. The following year, the story was adapted into a television drama, with a remake by Shinji Higuchi and parody film both releasing in the years following. Triple Fighter. Comprised of 130 mini-episodes to tell 26 stories, Triple Fighter is a 1972 Tsuburaya series that sees a trio of siblings who survive the extinction of their home planet battle against an evil alien force. Together, these three combine into Triple Fighter, a golden ultra-like hero. Gappa. After a giant baby monster is found by reporters, it becomes a huge attraction before eventually being rescued by the monster's parents. This is the plot to the 1976 film Gappa, the Triphibian Monster. It's a by-the-numbers kaiju film released by Nikatsu. Cybercop. Created by Toho, this series began in 1988, featuring a team of armored police under the new Special Task Force ZAC to clean up the streets of Tokyo. 4 armored heroes, Mars, Saturn, Mercury, and Jupiter, battle against the organized crime syndicate Death Trap. Mighty Jack. What Eiji Tsuburaya considered his magnum opus. Mighty Jack sees a group conducting international espionage with the combat aid of a superpowered submarine. Ratings were not particularly high for the show, so its sequel series, Fight Mighty Jack, was made to be a lot more comical, but ultimately still didn't draw in viewers. This series was given US distribution through Sandy Frank Productions, who took the show and spliced bits of it together to make a dubbed movie, which you may have seen on Mystery Science Theater 3000. Army of the Apes. A group of humans are transported to the distant future to find the world overrun with evolved humanoid apes that wear clothes and treat what's left of humanity as slaves. And, oh wait, this sounds kind of familiar. Oh yeah, this one also got the Sandy Frank treatment and showed up on MST3K2. Starwolf / Fugitive Alien. Based on the novel series by Edmund Hamilton, this Tsuburaya-produced space opera sees Ken Shinsei join the crew of space adventurers who encounter and deal with threats from across the cosmos. Yet again, this show was a victim of Sandy Frank, splicing various bits of episodes to create not one, but 2 movies released as a Fugitive Alien series, both of which, you guessed it, were featured on MST3K, being the source of the infamous forklift song. Bioplanet Wu. Wu found its roots as an early concept for what would become Ultra Q, and eventually materialized as the titular 2006 TV drama. Running for 13 episodes, this sees Wu, an alien, befriend a young girl named Ai and battle evil aliens and a mysterious organization that wants to destroy it. Parahero Gandine. This 2001 miniseries follows Gandine, a wheelchair-using masked hero with the power of speed. This series made a big splash in the community for its wide range of diversity in its characters, and the casting of Kamen Rider Geostar So Okno. Smoking causes coughing. This French comedy series sees a group of heroes battling foes using the power of tobacco, but as tensions rise and the group starts to split, they go on a business retreat. Space Warriors 2000. Made without the permission of Tsuburaya Productions in 1985, this clip film sees a young boy begin to talk to a sentient Ultraman figure who may or may not be the real deal. Hanuman is also here for some reason. Why can't I escape Hanuman? Akamaiza 3 and Chojin Bibyun. Released in 1975, this series sees 3 demon heroes battle against foes from beneath the earth. At some point, their bodies were destroyed, but they reincarnate into the form seen in the direct follow-up in 1976's Chojin Bibyun. Kyodyne. Space Iron Man Kyodyne premiered in 1976, and sees a family abducted by aliens and forced to build a technological army for an incoming invasion of Earth. Using his time and resources, the father transforms his sons into cybernetic warriors with a duty to protect the Earth. Together, they are the Kyodyne. Star Kid. When a bullied kid who loves comics comes across an alien power suit, his life begins to change forever. When villainous bionics land on Earth following the suit, it is up to him to defend his small town. This film was released in 1997 and became a box office bomb, earning $7 million on a $12 million budget. Yamata no Orochi. The multi-headed serpent has seen his ways into many Toho films, with this entry focusing on the 1994 film Orochi, the Eight-Headed Dragon. This sees a few classic Japanese myths recreated on screen, primarily with the titular creature and the rise of Shintoism. Real quick, since you made it this far, I assume you like Tokusatsu, so you can join us on the Marcosatsu Discord server and talk Tokusatsu with other people like you. Plus, if you're a supporter, you get this cute little color next to your name, alongside video previews of upcoming projects. Now let's get back to it. Level 5. Caballeros do Futuro. Caballeros do Futuro, or Knights of the Future, is the name of the heroes within Bambulia, which was a Brazilian network television program aired in 2000 and 2001. This saw a group of kids become mystical knights, and like Power Rangers, battle the forces of evil who fought against a magical theme park. Huh? It's low budget, but expansive, with over 200 drama-filled episodes. Brahmin, legendary hero. One day, a smooth-talking police officer becomes entwined with the once ordinary office worker who begins to exhibit supernatural urges after an encounter with death. Kekaida gets shot at, and a Kamen Rider-like hero emerges to battle the evil Shadow Man. Released by Center Island in 1997, this 30-minute short is filled with references, homages, and parodies of various tokusatsu tropes. There's also a slight nudity from 7 to 8 minutes in. Blazer Knight Voice End. Released by OAC in 2010, Blazer Knight Voice End is a hero film packed with special effects and a catchy soundtrack. This story follows a team of heroes, led by a magical cat girl and her talking bird. She is joined by a special investigator who becomes a cowboy-like hero in a very Hibiki-esque comedic and endearing short film. Live-action Tetsujin 28. This entry refers to Tetsujin 28-go, a 13-episode 1960 live-action series based on the manga of the same name, along with a 2005 film adaptation. Both showcase the battle between Tetsujin 28, a giant robot controlled by a boy detective, Shotaro Kaneda, and various evil forces and criminals. Golden Bat. As aliens invade, the United Nations begin looking for a solution. They eventually find one in the form of the Golden Bat, an ancient mummy who is unleashed to battle evil. Golden Bat is one of the first superheroes to come out of Japan, created by Takeo Nagamatsu and Suzuki Ichiro in 1971. With the manga cemented in Japanese pop culture, 3 live-action films would be created, released in 1950, 1966, and 1972. The 1950 film has become lost media, but the other, more popular 1966 film, starring Sonny Chiba, has become a cult classic. Taro Man. Taro Man is a 2022 television series in the style of popular artist Taro Okamoto, emulating the style of Showa-era tokusatsu, culminating in a loving parody of the era through the story of a sun-like hero. Cutie Honey and Cutie Honey the Live. After an accident left her killed, and her father rebuilt her as an android, Honey Kisaragi watched her father be murdered by the organization Panther Claw. Fitted with the ability to transform into different disguises, she vows to defeat the organization. This is the story of the Hideaki Anno 2004 adaptation of the classic Go Nagai manga. It was later adapted once again into live action by Toshiki Inui in 2007. Bardion. Smart Protector Bardion is an independent Indonesian tokusatsu series that was released on YouTube in November of 2023, wrapping up in 6 episodes. It follows the BSF who develop a special suit to battle the Syndrome, an evil force who seeks to take over the planet. A sequel series, Bardion Z-Cross, is scheduled to release in 2025. Captain Justice. One day, Ridwan, a tokusatsu fan and content creator, is given the powers to become like the heroes he admires by Captain Justice, to fight against alien invaders. This is the first entry in a larger universe of heroes created by independent Indonesian company FK Movers. Oh hey, they're subscribed to me. Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. The year is 2147, and specialized advanced robots called biomechs have begun to take over dangerous jobs for humans, including that of military combatants. However, due to humanity's hubris, these machines develop sentience and turn on us, and a war between these mechs and humans begin. This is the premise behind Captain Power, which ran for 22 episodes in 1987. It's a pretty interesting premise that the original crew is trying to revive. Just don't look too closely at their histories though. Tetsuo the Iron Man. This is a cult classic film written and directed by Shinya Tsukamoto, released in 1989. It follows an unnamed office worker who one day wakes up to find that metal begins to grow from his body. Throughout the film, he begins to amass more and more metal, slowly losing his humanity. It's often regarded as one of the best cult classic sci-fi horror movies to come out of Japan in the late 80s, due to its tone and haunting presentation. It was followed up with a sequel in 1992 entitled Tetsuo 2, Body Hammer, and a third film in 2009, Tetsuo the Bullet Man. Chou Ninja Tai Inazuma, Season 1, and Spark. Released in 2006 by Toei, Inazuma is a direct-to-video comedy short film which sees a producer from the future create a new Henshin Hero series for an anniversary of the Hyper Hero series. It sees a variety of Sentai actors come together to lampoon the genre, which saw a sequel released in 2007. Rosetta. This is a short 13-episode series, Released in 1998 by Subaraya, which sees a high school girl take up the mantle of being a masked hero from her father to battle the Duats, an evil force. This series is distinct compared to the studio's other works, with an angular Egyptian motif and a more Conrider-style presentation, which would be adopted by further series released near the same time. Wecker series. The Wecker series began with the 2001 movie Chrono Police Wecker, which follows 3 idle detectives who solve mysterious happenings from across time. It was followed up in 2002 by Wecker D2, a TV series, and then Singa in 2007. Since then, many movies, stage shows, and drama CDs have been released connected to the series. Vanei Nights. This series was released in 1999 and followed Fujita Kazuyuki, who holds with him the Millennium Saber and the spirit of the legendary hero Arist Horn. After being attacked by an evil force, 3 rabbit-themed hero girls appear in his life, vowing to defend him. Zebraman 1 and 2. The Zebraman duology follows Shinichi Ichikawa, a man with a horrible home life who at night dresses up as his childhood hero, Zebraman, to solve a series of murders, while piecing together his life. Released in 2004 and 2010 respectively, these films have become cult classics. Zyrim 1 and 2. Written and directed by Keita Amemiya, Zyrim is a 1991 film about Iria, an intergalactic bounty hunter who comes to Earth to battle the alien Zyrim on Earth. A sequel would follow in 1995, along with a 6-part OVA anime in 1994. Toho's Human Monster Movies. This entry refers to a series of humanoid or overtly human monster Toho movies released from 1994's The Invisible Avenger to 1960's The Human Vapor. The Invisible Avenger follows a series of murders done by an invisible foe, created due to wartime science. Half-Human follows a reporter interviewing victims and witnesses to a mysterious Bigfoot-like creature in the Alps. The H-Man follows an narcotics bust gone wrong. A series of murders begins related to a mutated, glowing man who has a connection to H-bomb tests in the Pacific. In The Human Vapor, a science experiment goes wrong. The Human Vapor is born, leading to the once docile librarian to begin a stint of robberies and murder. And finally, The Secret of the Telegian follows a reporter and a detective trying to solve a series of murders by a figure calling themselves the Telegian, using machinery. Zydo. Zydo the Space Sheriff is a 100-episode-long Filipino tokusatsu which ran from 2007 to 2008. It sees a series of heroes clad in the Zydo armor to fight against the remains of evil aliens. This is a loose remake or reimagining of the Space Sheriff series. Mighty Knight Bayou. One day a student stumbles upon a secret agent carrying the KJ Driver, a device that allows the wielder to transform into the Mighty Knight Bayou. Now he must fight evil forces. This is a comic and live-action series released by a Malaysian studio, with a pilot released in 2020 and a comic released in 2021. Hilo, a series of 3 films created by Haisei Takano, starring Ultraman actors Aoyagi Takaya and Yoshioka Takeshi, seeing a world in which the roles of heroes and villains are switched, with the hero of television series being hated. However, people begin to remember a world in which it was the opposite way around, and new heroes emerge. I'll script here, this is one of the funniest and one of the coolest just tokusatsu movies ever. I love the Hilo 2 specifically. It is so good. Big recommendations to go out and watch it. Go, Kotaro Ushiwaga. Starting in 1974, this series saw 156 3 to 6 minute episodes following a hero named Kotaro Ushiwaka, who uses the power of the sun to transform and fight the Dark Clan who seek to conquer the world. Voice Lugger. Released in 1999, Voice Lugger is an Ishinomori production, which acts as a parody of old tokusatsu series. It follows the Voice Luggers who use the power of voice stones to battle against the Muon Empire. El Chapulín Colorado. Premiering in 1973, El Chapulín Colorado is a Mexican comedy series whose hero has become an icon over the decades. This series ran for over 200 episodes, with the hero battling many foes in a very comedic way. He's also in Fortnite. Rescue Force. Defenders of the Earth, Rescue Force, was a 2008 Australian hero show concept proposed by BOS Stunts, who worked on many Power Ranger series. This would showcase the battle between the 2 members of the Rescue Force battle against Skullhead. This concept would be utilized as footage for the 2009 Bag Raider song Fun Punch. Bycrosser. One day, brothers Ken and Ginjiro encounter the Death Star organization after chasing a mysterious light. Before they can be killed, a ship brings them aboard and gives the brothers the power to transform into Bycrossers. Together, they fight Dester using motorcycles which double as giant guns to save the children of Earth from crying. Aegon, the Atomic Dragon. Also known as Giant Phantom Monster Aegon, this is a 1976 4-part black and white miniseries which was created in 1964 but shelved by Toho. 30 years later, it was released as a feature film. Megaloman. After their home planet was taken over by an enemy force, a mother and son flee to Earth, where they now defend the planet with their friends. This series was created by Toho and aired in 1979. National Kid. Released in 1960 to promote the national brand of products by Matsushita Electric, who would later become Panasonic, Toei created a 39-episode hero show with 4 individual story arcs. National Kid, an immortal protector, came to Earth from the Andromeda Galaxy, battles countless foes from invading aliens to a group of underground people. Having received a dub in Brazil, it has become a cult classic series. Tetsujin Tiger 7. Set in 1973, this season anthropomorphic bike-riding hero battled against the forces of evil. Created by P Productions to rival the popular Kamen Rider series, Tiger 7 takes an episodic and slightly dark story as the cyborg furry hero fights for the freedom of the planet. Rainbow Man. Warrior of Love. Rainbow Man is the first Toho hero show which began in 1972 and ran for 52 episodes. It follows the hero Takeshi Yamato, who has the power to transform between 7 different colored forms. Rainbow Man battles against the Dai Dai Gang, who seek to ravage Japan in response to the atrocities the nation carried out during the Second World War. Following the success of Kikaider in Hawaii, Rainbow Man would be brought to the States alongside Kamen Rider V3. In 1982, this series saw a remake, transforming our superhero protagonist into a fleet of mechs, which has become semi-lost media. The Kaiju Prince. Created by P Productions and running for 26 episodes in 1967, this series sees Takeru Ibuki and his best friend, the Brontosaurus Nessie. Together, the two battle aliens and defend the Earth. Despite being a Brontosaurus, Nessie has a capability to shoot fire, a byproduct of the impact Godzilla has had on our dinosaur media of the time. Giant Robo, also known as Johnny Socko and his flying robot. When the Earth is invaded by a mysterious alien race, it is up to a young boy, his friend, and his giant robot shaped like an Egyptian pharaoh to fight back. That's the basic premise to Giant Robo, a 26-episode series from 1967, based on the manga of the same name. It came stateside in 1969 under the name Johnny Socko, the new name for the main lead. Supergiants. Supergiant, also known as the Giant of Steel, is a character who has appeared in a variety of films and television series released by Shin Toho. The character first appeared in the 1957 49-minute film Supergiant, which would be followed by its Part 2 in Supergiant 2. Following this, a further 7 theatrical serials would be created from 57 up to 1959. Despite the name, the hero is not a giant, but instead an alien created from steel, sent to protect the universe from evil. Silver Kamen. This is a 1971 Ultraman-like show that ran for 26 episodes, which sees a titular hero protect the Earth from the alien threats who seek to destroy the photon rocket, a device created by their protagonist's father. The alien threats slowly get larger and larger, and in return, Silver Kamen becomes Silver Kamen Giant to battle them. The show was spearheaded by famed Ultra Series director Akio Chisoji. Gazora. Released in 1984 by German director Jörg Buttgereit, this sees the giant monster Gazora ravage a rural German town. Within the film's short 7-minute runtime, it parodies various tropes of kaiju films, including an obvious low-budget, stop-motion, and a series of toys used to represent vehicles. The creature is ultimately stopped with stock footage of nuclear explosions. Japanese pre-World War II King Kong movies. This is referring to the attempts and now lost films capitalizing on the RKO classic King Kong. The first of these efforts is Wasei King Kong, released in 1933 and produced by Shochiku Kinema, is a comedy parody of King Kong. It follows a jobless man who dresses up as a monster to make money to eventually marry his sweetheart. The second film in this entry is The King Kong that appeared in Edo, a 1938 silent period drama that is also lost media. This film, set in the Edo period, followed the kidnapping of a woman done by the kidnapper's pet ape, King Kong. Both of these films have very little to do with the RKO classic, with the name King Kong used within these films simply as marketing gimmicks, due to the popularity of the King of the Apes in English markets. Hayabusa vacuum commercials. In 1971, Tsuburaya partnered with Hayabusa to market and advertise their new line of vacuum cleaners, resulting in the creation of Falcon, an ultralight creature. She battles dust and dirt monsters using her vacuum arm, transforming from some tennis-playing lady when needed. This is the first ever female henshin hero in all of Tokusatsu media. Is it? Enban Sensou Bankid. Created in 1977 in response to the success of Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, Toho would create Bankid. This sees a team of 5 colored alien heroes battle against the evil Bukumi aliens who seek to conquer the Earth. The team is composed of the red teenager leader, the pink teenage girl, and 3 kids, the siblings yellow and blue. They're also all animal themed. Can't you tell by the designs? Daikaiju Mono. Released in 2016, Kaiju Mono follows a team of scientists who create the Setap X to transform into giant wrestlers to fight off giant monsters. This parody follows in the footsteps of the director's other works, such as 2004's The Calamari Wrestler and Crab Goalkeeper, which sees cameos by famous tokusatsu stars and low-budget, but earnest, comedies and dramas. X-Bomber / Starfleet. Created by mangaka Go Nagai, X-Bomber was a 1980 TV drama made in the style of Jerry Anderson series, using miniature sets and puppets. This series sees a crew of the X-Bomber protect a girl and the Earth from the Gelma Armada, using a giant combining robot. It was brought to the UK with an English dub under the name Starfleet. The redone theme music would catch the attention of Queen guitarist Brian May, who released a vocal rendition of the song later. Kure Kure Takura. Premiering in 1973, this children's tokusatsu ran for 260 short 3-minute episodes. It follows the red octopus, Takura, who has an unhealthy obsession with being greedy. Red Tiger. UFO Great Battle Fighting Red Tiger was released in 1978. Produced by Soeisha, following the Amano family whose eldest son, Ginga, is turned into the hero Red Tiger by aliens. The family battles these alien foes. As of this writing, only 4 full episodes have been made available online through broadcast recordings, with the final 10 minutes of episode 35 accompanying them. Mika Droid, Robo-Kill Beneath Disco Club Layla. Released by Toho in 1991, Mika Droid is a sci-fi horror film which sees athletes turn into half-human, half-machine death soldiers during the Second World War. One of these soldiers emerges after 45 years, beginning to kill anyone it comes to contact with. The Egg from Outer Space. This is a 1967 sci-fi kaiju film released by Shochiku, which sees an advanced spaceship encountering a UFO near Mars, bringing back alien spores that rapidly develop into a giant monster entitled Guilala. From there, it proceeds to rampage through Tokyo, before being launched towards the sun. In 2008, Shochiku released Minoru Kawasaki's Monster X Strikes Back, Attack the G8 Summit, a comedic sequel. This sees Guilala return, rampage through Sapporo and Hokkaido before heading back to the G8 Summit. P-Man. Created by SOA in 1996, P-Man is a series of short comedic situations featuring the titular hero. He battles with immense strength, razor-sharp fists, and immense speed. This is a charming parody of various hero series made with an abundance in 90s low-budget charm. Battlehawk. Created by Go Nagai and Ken Ishikawa, Battlehawk was released in 1976, which follows the grandchildren of a martial arts master who calls upon American indigenous spirits to take the form of Battlehawk, Big Hawk, and Queen Hawk to fight against the terrorist force Kyoki no To, Iron King. Using giant robots, the descendants of the Shirai-Nui clan attempt to overthrow the Japanese government. In response, the agent Gantaro Shizuka sets out to stop them. Little does he know that Goro Kirishima, some dude he met along the way, has the power to transform into a giant robot called the Iron King. This Ultra-like series ran for 26 episodes in 1972, and was released in North America in 2010 by Mill Creek. Message from Space, Galactic Wars. An Ishinomori sci-fi series starting in 1978 that follows 2 sword-wielding heroes, Maboroshi and Nagareboshi, battling against the evil Galvanas Empire. This series is a sequel to the 1978 film Message from Space. Emergency Directive 10-4-1010. Airing in 1972, this sees the radio wave investigation team investigate paranormal and supernatural happenings, including aliens, mysterious creatures, and evil organizations. The call signs in the series titles are commonly used for radio, meaning OK and Fight in Progress respectively. Asta Kaiser. Pro wrestling star Asta Kaiser is a Tsuburaya wrestling-themed hero show created by Go Nagai and Ken Ishikawa. Released in 1976, the series sees pro wrestler Shun Takaba gain the power of Asta Kaiser to battle against the organization Black Mist, who killed his brother. A distinct element of the show is how Asta Kaiser has the power to transport him and his opponent to the anime dimension to have cool-looking fight scenes that don't affect the outside world. Hehe. Keitai Investigator 7. Released in 2007, Keitai follows Keita, a high school student who joins an organization called Under Anchor to catch cyber criminals. He is paired up with the robot phone Braver 7, and they work together uncovering conspiracies and criminals. This is one of my favorites, so highly recommend. Operation Mystery, Second File, and Mystery File. In 1968, Tsuburaya launched the paranormal mystery series Operation Mystery, and ran for 26 episodes. It's similar in structure to their previous series Ultra Q in tone and structure. It received a sequel series in 2007 called Operation Mystery, Second File, and another installment in 2013 entitled Mystery File. Wangamui. Space Monster Wangamui, released in 1967, is the oldest surviving South Korean kaiju film, but not the first from the country. This follows an Air Force pilot who, days before his wedding, is called to battle against alien forces, who grow giant when entering Earth's gravity. While being serious, this film contains a series of scenarios and vignettes into how people respond to the invasion and monster rampage, with the majority of them being comedic. The film was only available within the South Korean Film Archive until 2022, when it was made available for digital viewing, and SRS Media released an international physical release of the film. Daigoro vs. Goliath. This is a 1972 co-production between Tsuburaya and Toho, made as part of the former's 10th anniversary celebration that sees the orphan monster Daigoro used for commercial business revenue, and eventually battling the monster Goliath. The Magic Serpent. Released by Toei in 1966, this film is a reimagining of many classic folktales. After the death of his parents a decade prior, Ikazuki Maru begins a quest for vengeance on the evil lord and his mystical companion, while facing many challenges in the form of various monsters. The finale of the film sees Ikazuchi transform into a giant toad to battle the multi-headed dragon Orochimaru. Ryujin Mabiar. Based on a group of local heroes in Okinawa, the first of many seasons began in 2008, with the most recent release in 2017. It follows Kanai, a young boy who learns to connect with his homeland as he fights as a hero against the evil core and to protect the very soul of Okinawa. He is assisted by his brother Nirai, a godlike being named Kaname, and the people of the island. Lady Battle Cop. Released in 1990, this follows a tennis player turned cyborg getting revenge on the organization that almost killed her. With suits designed by Keita Memiya, inspired by RoboCop, this V-cinema has become a cult classic. Planet Prince. Airing in 1958, this series was produced by Senkosha and sees the titular hero battle against an evil organization. It received 2 theatrical adaptations in 1959, and eventually an anime in 1965. In 2021, it saw a low-budget comedic film remake by Minoru Kawasaki, Nanairo Kamen, also known as Seven Color Mask. Released in 1959, this was Toei's first foray into TV tokusatsu superhero shows. Running for 57 episodes, this series follows a young detective and his 7 disguises, which include the titular hero. In 1972, it was loosely remade into Rainbow Man, although the 7 story arcs that the show is composed of are largely discarded. In 1959, it received a theatrical release and proved a success for Toei. Prophecies of Nostradamus. Adapted loosely from the 1555 book Les Prophéties by Nostradamus and the latter 1973 of the same name. This 1974 disaster survival film saw the supposed happenings that would come to pass in the future. It showcases an alternate future in the year 1999, presenting massive disasters, unnatural phenomena, and mutated cannibal people. Events that, much like many of the supposed claims Nostradamus predicted, are untrue. Mighty Peking Man. Released in 1977 following the massive cultural interest in King Kong, following the 1976 Lorenzo de Laurentiis film, this sees a news team from Hong Kong travel to the Himalayas, find a giant gorilla named Uttam, who they bring back to the city with them, leading to an escape and rampage. The film received an English theatrical run in 1980 under the name Goliathon. Before we continue, since we do have a lot of tokusatsu to talk about, some of it goes past my realm of knowledge, so I asked some of Team Satsu if they would like to help. Here's our resident kaiju expert, Dawn and Ferbus.
Daimajin Trilogy. The Daimajin Trilogy is a series of films released in 1966 by Daiei. These entries are Daimajin, Return of Daimajin, and Daimajin Strikes Again. Made on a relatively low budget and released alongside the studio's other flagship kaiju series, Gamera. These films are set in Japan's past and deal with a variety of issues, including an uprising against a harsh ruler and an evil king who seeks to use the power of Daimajin to subjugate the country. Daimajin was successful and had 2 sequels which saw the same crew reuse sets, props, and plot beats for 2 very rushed sequels following the fierce, stone-guarded being. Andromelos. Andrew Melos is a Subaraya series that ran for 45 5-minute episodes in 1983. It follows Melos, a warrior of the Andro who run a defense force to fight enemies called the Gua Army. The series was inspired by a manga series entitled The Ultraman, which saw a new hero rise to aid the Ultra Brothers against the villainous Jackal. Andrew Melos has appeared in recent Ultra media, with there being a big connection between the two, but I won't spoil it. Kaiju Busca and Chibara-kun. Both of these series, made by Subaraya, deal with childlike anthropomorphic characters and their friends living life and exploring the world. Kaiju Busca was the first of these to air, releasing in 1966 and receiving 2 continuations. One in 1999 under the name Busca, and the other in the form of a manga entitled Busca Plus. It's a personal favorite of mine and Ferbus. The second series in this entry is Chibara-kun, which began in 1970 and ran for 78 15-minute episodes. It follows a family of anthropomorphic characters going about their daily lives, often running into comedic and childlike situations. Frankenstein conquers the world. Frankenstein Conquers the World, also known as Frankenstein vs. Batagon, is a 1965 Toho creature feature that sees a gigantic man named Frankenstein, born from the heart of the monster from the titular story, go on a rampage. It's the first of a Frankenstein trilogy directed by Ishiro Honda, with its sequels being covered in other entries on this list. This is notable for introducing everyone's favorite puppy dog kaiju, Batagon, who has come into the classification of Godzilla characters. King Kong Escapes. This is Toho's infamous Kong film, 4th in the franchise and a loose remake of the Rankin Bass animated cartoon. Escapes is a wild ride. Kong lives on Mondo Island and falls for an army gal while battling the always a fan favorite dinosaur Gorosaurus and the evil mining robot Mechanicong, created by Doctor Who. Wait, really? The guy's called Doctor Who? You gotta be fucking kidding me. It's... yeah. Yongare / Reptilian. Yongare is a name given to 2 films released in South Korea. The first is 1967's Yongare, which was influenced by the lost production Bulgasari, and follows a space bacteria turned into a giant dragon due to nuclear bomb testing. Fun fact, the South Korean language version is partially missing. So, yeah? The second of these was released in theaters in 1999. This film is similar to the original while expanding on the characters, events, and most impressively, the visuals of the titular beast. Interestingly, the theatrical version of this film has not been released on home media. Instead, an updated version titled 2001 Upgrade Edition came out in 2001. This film hit North American cinemas with this version released under the name Reptilian. Guyford. 7-star fighting god Guyford was a 3-way studio collaboration brought to you by Toho, Capcom, and Toei in 1996. It ran for 26 episodes and follows Go Kazuma unraveling the mysterious disappearance of his brother, a global crime syndicate, and the creation of Guyborgs, cyborg-like implantations. While searching for his brother, Go adopts the mantle of Guyford, and using his martial arts skills, fights the villainous Crown Syndicate. And look at that suit. I want to be inside it. Reptilicus. Reptilicus is a United States and Denmark co-production between American International Pictures and Saga Studios in 1961. While a majority of this film was shot in Denmark, it has 2 versions, filmed and released with separate language versions sharing the same story, characters, and sets. After miners find a giant tail, it begins to regenerate, and Reptilicus makes its way through Denmark, wreaking havoc. It's mostly remembered today thanks to the MST3K riff of the English version of the film, but holds a cult status in Denmark for obvious reasons. The Mysterians. An evil alien race has begun to invade Japan, and by that, I mean a large amount of colorful helmeted Mysteriods want to settle on Earth and marry Earthlings. This is a very brief glance at the plot of Ishiro Honda's 1957 sci-fi epic, and undersells the pure 50s sci-fi fun of the film. With effects by Eiji Tsuburaya and the always fascinating alien bug mecha Mogira, it's a genuinely compelling film that I recommend to fans of the Godzilla series. Matango. Directed by famed Godzilla director Ishiro Honda, Matango is a 1963 creature effects film that deals with a group of people trapped on an island who must fend off mutated mushroom creatures. Based off of the Will and Hope Hodgson story, The Voice in the Night, Matango is one of Honda's most distinct works due to the darkness in the film, both figuratively and literally. It's most well known for its creatures, with them very apparently being a stand-in for nuclear radiation survivors, and deals with themes of survivor's guilt and addiction. War in outer space. In 1965, suddenly, the world finds itself facing unexplainable events. As doctors meet with the UN, they believe there has been a shift in the Earth's gravity, caused by mysterious alien forces. Released by Toho in 1959 and directed by Honda, based on a screenplay by Shinichi Sekizawa, this is a weird but ultimately fun sci-fi flick. Space Amoeba. 3 words. Giant. Alien. Cuttlefish. Space Amoeba is yet another Toho Honda kaiju flick. This time, a space probe is sent to study Jupiter, but is taken over by a parasitic amoeba and returns to Earth to cause destruction and mayhem. Throughout the film, 3 monsters are created by the alien organism: the cuttlefish Gazora, the crab Ganymedes, and the big turtle Camebus. Released in 1970, the film's script and concept dates back to 1966, but has a long and complicated development history, which deserves a video just by itself. The end result is a slightly dated but interesting film. Like other Honda films of this era, the kaiju in this film have found themselves becoming rivals to Godzilla in extended media. Atragon. Released in December of 1963, Atragon is a Toho classic, directed by Honda, with effects by Tsuburaya, and based on 2 stories: Shunro Oshikawa's The Undersea Warship and Shigeru Komatsuzuki's The Undersea Kingdom. This film deals with the reemergence of the lost continent of Mu, a real urban myth that supposedly existed in the Pacific Ocean between North America and Asia. Upon resurfacing, it wages war on the world. To fight back, the UN tries to reason with the creator of a highly advanced Atragon-type submarine called the Gatengo, so that they could complete the machine and make it to the capital of Mu under the sea. The most iconic part of this film is when Gatengo is ensnared by a sea serpent, Manda, who would later appear in the Godzilla series. The Atragon-type ships would also see use within the Godzilla franchise, mainly seen in 2004's Godzilla Final Wars, where a ship battles Manda once again. Latitude Zero. Latitude Zero is a 1969 Japanese-American co-production set in the sea. The titular Latitude Zero is an undersea base of operations for Alpha, a mysterious group of adventurers. It sees 2 factions battling out for the base, which holds properties of immortality. This is another one of Honda's films, so kaiju are plenty in this, with the most notable being humanoid Batmen. I just have to present that nonchalantly. What the fuck you mean humanoid Batman? War of the Gargantuas. Also called Frankenstein's Monster, Sanda vs. Gaida, is another Honda Tsuburaya work, this time released in 1966. It is the third in a collaboration between Toho and American film producer Henry Saperstein, which sees American actors brought in alongside Japanese stars in this giant bestial film. The plot follows the conclusion of Frankenstein vs. Barugan, with the monsters of the film, the brothers, through cloning, Sanda and Gaida, being mistaken for that Frankenstein, while still referred to as Frankenstein's monsters. The 2 collide in battle, with ideological differences coming up surrounding humans. Varan, the Unbelievable. Varan the Unbelievable, or as it's called in Japan, Giant Monster Varan, is a 1958 kaiju film by Toho with Shudo Honda in the director's seat. Originally intended to be a co-production with American Broadcasting Paramount Theaters, Varan swooped his way into theaters both in 1958 and in American theaters in 1962 thanks to Crown International. Like his predecessor, Rodan, the film centers around the awakening of a hibernating beast who flies around Japan causing havoc and destruction, only to face certain death thanks to fire. The kaiju, like others from this era of Toho films, found its way into the catalog of Godzilla-related creatures. The American cut of the film got the King of the Monsters treatment, with actor Myron Healy being interspliced into scenes much like Raymond Burr in Godzilla. This version sees major cuts such as the new story, the cutting of almost the entire Japanese plotline, and most importantly, the cutting of the amazing soundtrack by Akira Ifukube. Gorath! This is a 1962 sci-fi fantasy film, following a group of scientists venturing to the giant star Gorath, which is quickly hurtling towards the Earth. This is another Honda, Tsuburaya, and Tanaka production, and it shows. The many jets are filmed the same way Tsuburaya does with other films and series, and is a pretty fun time. This movie introduces the seal monster Maguma, who, alongside Gorath itself, has reappeared in Godzilla-related media. All will assimilate with Godzilla. Praise the All-Father for the Tsuburaya Dinosaur Trilogy. This entry discusses the 3 individual series created by Tsuburaya Productions focusing on dinosaurs. The first of these is Dinosaur Expedition Born Free, which ran from 1976 to 1977. This is a very interesting entry due to the fact that it is an anime tokusatsu hybrid, depicting defense vehicles and dinos using puppets, and character interactions with animation. The second entry is Dinosaur Great War Isenborg, which ran from 77 to 78. This features a defense team called Isenborg and a giant cyborg, ultra-like hero called Isenbo, fighting aggressive dinosaurs and an evil alien organization. In 2017, Tsuburaya released a 30-minute special entitled Return of Isenborg, which saw a reflection on the series and a brand new short fight. Like its predecessor, it is an anime tokusatsu hybrid. The third of this trilogy, Dinosaur Squadron Poseidon, released in 78 and ran until 79. This would be a solely tokusatsu production, which saw a time-traveling defense team battle dinos along with Crusader, an armored hero who battles mysterious invaders with the team. This trilogy of dino series was made in the downtime between Ultra shows, and as a result, shared a basic structure and style as these series. Right, so this is a North Korean film. Pulgasari would adapt and act as a loose remake of the 1962 South Korean film Bulgasari, Pulgasari is set in Korea under the Goryeo dynasty in the 900s and follows the daughter of a sculptor named Ami, who, after pricking her finger and dropping blood onto a small dragon statue created by her father in prison, unleashed the beast known as Pulgasari. Pulgasari, who is born from the sculpture, starts off small and with a big appetite for metal, which it consumes and grows in size. Pulgasari's metal-eating ability proves useful as the villagers of the small region sacrifice their pots, pans, and other metal goods to help Pulgasari grow. This proves successful, and the villagers rejoice. However, Pulgasari turns on them and starts eating the village. To quench its rampage, Ami tricks Pulgasari into eating her, which causes Pulgasari to return to its form as a small figure. Pulgasari was a success, showing continuously at capacity for days at a time. It wasn't like anything the people of North Korea had seen before. This film is perhaps then the greatest example of North Korean propaganda working in an opposite way than, well, summer's almost here, and Top Gun Maverick is going to kick it off. It's okay, I guess. Pat Labor? Yeah, Pat Labor. This is a live-action adaptation of the classic anime, with a few films and a TV series going under the title The Next Generation. While it isn't a traditional tokusatsu, being a live-action CG hybrid mech show, it is an interesting footnote in this franchise. Also, the Labors look sick in live action. Mega Powers. Created by Intervalo, Mega Powers is a low-budget Brazilian Power Rangers / Super Sentai series. Its brightly colored heroes are called upon to defeat an evil army of alien invaders who seek to strip the planet of its resources. To defeat these foes, 3 ordinary people are given the Mega Powers and adopt a secret identity to fight for good. AU Club. AU Club is the name of a small tokusatsu production company that emerged in the late 1990s, which focused on the production of robot girl / mechanical doll specials. These typically follow a group of nerdy teenagers or young adults building or repairing a mechanical girl who battles foes, often being controlled by these groups. One of the group's earliest releases was Cyber Lady Suzuka in 1998, a short story about a nerdy group of guys who build Suzuka, an adorable battling robot girl who saves the day. Following the release of Suzuka, they would go on to produce even more similar series. Red Lilac would be their next production, releasing in 2001. In 2002, they would release Avaroid Seria, setting up a new world with a romantic twist between Seria and her master. This would receive a sequel entitled Ausencia Memoria, released in 2003, building off of that film's plot. The last I want to cover for this entry is 2003's Battle Holography Wind, a collection of 3 short stories that all deal with mass robo heroes. And hey look, there's a Suzuka VHS cameo. Neat. Machi Action. Machi Action is a 2013 Taiwanese comedy and drama film. It sees the ending of a long-running tokusatsu series that is a very obvious mashup of Kamen Rider and Ultraman for a new fancy series. Themes of true heroism, moving on, and accepting change are present through the character Tainan and his best friend Monster. It is a must-watch, both for the tokusatsu element and the interesting and heart-tugging story. Rega and Raigo. This entry is referring to 2 films and characters are interlocked in a shared world. The first is Deep Sea Monster Rego, an independently made 2008 kaiju film written and directed by Shinpei Hayashiya, with creature designs by Keita Memiya. The film is set during World War II and sees the deep sea creature Rego battle the Yamato, one of Imperial Japan's best powerhouse ships. The film is a constant back and forth between the Yamato and Rego, as they each take turns using their cunning to attack each other. Following the film's release, a year later, Hayashiya would release Deep Sea Monster Raiga, a sequel that took a new undersea monster onto land and into the world of comedy. In 2019, a third entry would be released entitled Deep Sea Monster Raiga vs. Lava Beast Oga, bringing back Raiga to battle another beast, Nezura. Like the Great Buddha Arrival, Nezura 1964 was a crowdfunded biopic that documents the production of the canceled Daiei film Nezura. The story goes like this. The film underwent production with a cast and sets and plan. However, Nezura, the beast of the story, would be a giant rat made out of a swarm of brown rats.
Did you do this? Was this you? Were you there?
This gave the reasoning to call the movie Giant Horde Beast, but while filming, the rats kept getting out and health concerns came up. Spoilers, the movie was canceled, but decades later, this production story and the film itself would somewhat come to exist. It's low budget, but had a higher budget than Buddha. With experience under their belt, 3Y really showed how good of a film they could make with this. It's not a high-budget monster destroying the city type of film, but it's a nice character study. Ambassador Magma, the Space Giants. Ambassador Magma began as a manga series written and illustrated by acclaimed artist Osamu Tezuka in 1965, following a family of metal-clad giant aliens from space who protect the planet from the evil alien invader Goa. The manga was quickly adapted by P Productions in 1966, which ran for 52 episodes. It was the first color broadcast tokusatsu in Japan and predates another giant alien hero, Ultraman, by just 2 weeks. It is also the first tokusatsu hero show to have a proper Christmas episode, which we touched on in this video. It received an English dub entitled The Space Giants and released by Krantz Films. The Great Buddha Arrival. Released by the independent Japanese studio Three Wise, is sort of kind of remake of a long-lost 1934 film with the same title. The plot of the film is interesting, and it really is something you have to watch for yourself to believe. The Great Buddha Arrival deals with the mysterious aftermath of an incident in which a giant monolithic Buddha statue appeared in 1932. In this reality, the lost film was supposedly based on true events, which began to occur again in a very low-budget way. The Buddha is here, and it isn't leaving anytime soon. It is a weird plot, but it's filled with charm. The idea of taking a lost film and saying that it is lost because of the supernatural abilities of this monolithic and possibly divine being. This is a low-budget, crowd-funded kaiju film that has garnered an audience through its use of kaiju veterans, but hooked many through its strangely charming story. Go give it a watch. G-Savior! G-Savior is a 1999 theatrical film created by Sunrise as a part of the Big Bang project of anniversary projects for the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise. Announced alongside Turn A Gundam, G-Savior is the first feature-length attempt to create a live-action Gundam film. Collaborating with Canadian special effects companies, this film was released in 1999 in Japan and in 2000 for North America. It had a short theatrical run with middling results, and has since become the black sheep of the Gundam franchise. If you want to know more, Ferbus and I are also working on a more extensive video about this film, so check that out in the future. Daimajin Canon! Daimajin Canon is a 2010 reinterpretation and spiritual sequel to these original films, with a new Henshin Hero twist. Running for 26 episodes, this series employed a lot of well-known Henshin Hero staff, which resulted in a very under-discussed series that holds up 14 years later. This follows Misaki Canon, a young woman who, following a breakup, begins to regain her independent power and life while battling alongside masked warriors. Ferbus and I are also working on a huge project for this franchise for the not-too-distant future, so please stay tuned. Horror Theater Unbalance! Running for 13 episodes in 1973, this series is a late-night adult-oriented horror and mystery anthology in the same style of an episode of The Twilight Zone. Each of the 40-minute episodes start with an intro narration by actor Yukio Aoshima, who go into the world of politics, becoming the governor of Tokyo from 1995 to 1999. The usage of Unbalance comes from one of Tsuburaya's earlier series, Ultra Q, which originally had the title of Unbalance. When creating this new horror series, the name stuck. However, unlike Ultra Q, each episode is standalone with no interconnecting cast or story outside of the aforementioned opening introduction. Sanpai's Kappa, Great Yokai War. The Great Yokai War is a title given to a lot of Tokusatsu-related projects. The entry title focuses specifically on the adaptation of the 1961 manga series by Shigeru Mizuki. The manga received a live-action adaptation in 1968, running for 26 episodes in black and white. The 7th episode of the series received a theatrical adaptation, which is where the Great Yokai War subtitle gets added. Gamera 4, Truth. This is a short fan film written, produced, and directed by Shinpei Hayashiya, released in 2003, where it would be exhibited at fan conventions. Following the continuity of Gamera 3, this film sees Gamera attack the new hyper-gyaos that swarm Tokyo. This has never been publicly released, and is a rare piece of media. The latest confirmed screening was in 2014 at G-Fest, and it's not likely that we will see much of this story anytime soon.
And now for our resident Tokusatsu fan from Europe. Here's Cydrixar.
Hojin Yatsurugi. Alternatively known as my favourite tokusatsu of all time, Hojin Yatsurugi is a local hero series set and produced in Kisarazu City in Chiba Prefecture. In the series, Takeru Yamato and Mari Tachibana are tasked with recovering the sacred sealing swords before the evil undersea empire of Zaboon can retrieve them and awaken their king. This series has spawned an entire franchise in and of itself, with now 11 seasons, several spin-offs and a feature-length movie under its belt. It isn't a clear-cut continuity though, as nearly every season is a complete continuity reset, with new iterations of the characters with different personalities and new actors, and different stories to go along with them. If only there was some YouTube video out there, made by a potentially really handsome content creator that detailed when the continuity resets are and what some of the changes were, and something weirdly specific like that. Oh well, I guess we'll never know. Thunderbirds and other Jerry Anderson productions. Danger is abound in this world. There's weird things happening all over the place, and sometimes it just isn't enough for the regular authorities to handle. And so sometimes you need to call international rescue based on Tracy Island and piloting their Thunderbirds vehicles to come and save the day. You know Eiji Tsuburaya? Yeah, I hear he was a big fan of this one, may or may not have taken direct inspiration from this series for things like Ultra 7, one of many shows produced by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson in Super Mario Nation. A style of tokusatsu kinda, sorta, maybe, in which the characters and vehicles are portrayed entirely through models and puppetry. unless it's a close-up, in which case they use like an actual person's hand, which is funny. There were many other shows produced by the pair and their team. Prior series such as Supercar and Fireball XL5, and later shows like my personal recommendations Captain Scarlet and Terrahawks. Also, yeah, just because these count, I guess this means you can count Jim Henson things like The Muppets and Dark Crystal and Labyrinth if you want. And, you can push the boss out even more if you really want to. Teletubbies, Metal Mickey, yeah, why not? Kaiketsu Zubat. Ken Hayakawa, a wandering private detective played by the legendary Hiroshi Miyauchi, is on a quest for vengeance after his good friend is killed by a mysterious assailant. Now with the superpowered Kaiketsu Zubat suit, he travels the land as a wandering vigilante, and also goes around one-upping literally everyone he ever meets ever. Oh, you think you're the best knife thrower in Japan? Nah, buddy, Ken Hayakawa is. What's that? You think you're the best American football player in Japan? Think again, Buster Browse. In short, this one's pretty good. Please watch. Sayuki, aka Monkey. Born from an egg on a mountain top, the punkiest monkey that ever popped. He knew every magic trick under the sun to tease the gods and everyone and have some fun. What a cocky, sassy monkey this one is. But all the gods were angered and they punished him, until he was saved by a kindly priest, and that was the start of their pilgrimage west. If it wasn't obvious already, this is a Tokusatsu TV adaptation of the classic Journey to the West tale. This series is actually very popular with my parents because it aired over here in the UK and down in Australia, and became very popular in both nations. But due to the theme song constantly reciting the term monkey magic, it's kind of just left the show being known as that, even though the actual official English title is simply just Monkey. Gorgo. After a volcanic eruption, a young juvenile kaiju dubbed Gorgo is found off the coast of Ireland, where it is promptly abducted and taken back to London to be put on display, and this is sounding a little bit derivative, but who cares? Here comes Ogre. Look, she's even seeing all the sights and promptly destroying them all. Oh well, at least she recovers her baby and they both end up living happily ever after. You know what really makes sense? The fact that this British kaiju movie doesn't have a British physical media release. Actually, no, that doesn't make sense at all. Someone fix that, please. Majin Hunter Mitsurugi. The three siblings of the Mitsurugi clan, Ginga, Suisei, and Gekko, are tasked with defeating the evil Sasori or Scorpion army, and their army of ninjas and monsters. To do this, they'll combine their powers both on foot and together as a giant samurai warlord. The main thing that sets this series apart from any other tokusatsu of the time, or indeed ever, is the fact that all of the giant battle sequences are portrayed through stop-motion animation. Something that's really cool and really neat to see, but someone on staff seemingly forgot, oh yeah, stop-motion animation takes a lot of time and money because this series only ended up running for 12 episodes before ultimately being cut short. The live-action adaptation of Osamu Tezuka's Vampire! Tope Tachibana is a young boy who is scouted out by Osamu Tezuka himself, actually played by him in the show like he is the fictionalized version of himself in the manga. Cool. Where it is revealed that there's a big secret. Tope is a werewolf, I mean vampire. This 26-episode series adapts, obviously, the Osamu Tezuka manga of the same name, and is fully available, but of course not fully subbed, because why would it be? This is actually quite a prophetic series in that it combines animation to portray the tokusatsu effects with the live-action actors, much in the same way that we use tokusatsu nowadays in things like the Monsterverse. So if you want a really early example of that sort of thing, then this is an easy recommendation. Plus, like, the story's actually really cool if you can actually, like, follow it. If nothing else, I highly recommend seeking out just the transformation sequences in this show, because they are, as the kids would say, totally tubular. The Bermuda Depths. So you know, a while ago when somebody, I forget who, talked about The Last Dinosaur, that Tsuburaya Productions and Rankin Bass co-production? Yeah, well, it wasn't the only one they did this as well. Basically, there's like some scientists doing some stuff in the Bermuda Triangle, but who cares about that? There's like this big turtle, Tsuburaya did that, and yeah, Carl Weathers is in it, rest in peace. Yeah, You know, there's not a whole lot to this movie, to be quite honest. But again, this wasn't the last co-production they did, because 2 years after this movie, in 1980, they came out with The Ivory Ape. So basically, there's this albino ape from Africa that's wound up in, believe it or not, Bermuda. And now it's up to Jack Palance and his ex-girlfriend to go and get it and take it back to Africa before the big game hunters come and take it and kill it and stuff. If you don't mind hard-coded Dutch subtitles, you can find this one on YouTube fairly easily. Line the Barbarian. Defense team member Arai has the power to become the primitive giant fighter, Line the Barbarian, in which he must learn to take down the Kaiju menace effectively while also remaining in self-control. This series started way back in the mid-80s, and is still continuing to this day, but it really is mostly just a case of them repackaging the old stuff and putting it out again in some way. Plus, it's also very derivative of the original Ultraman content, much to the point where certain episode plots are near-carbon copies of Ultraman versions from 1966. There's even a bloody Ultra Fight ripoff called Line Fight, and an Ultra 7 equivalent in the form of the sequel thing, Assault Man. Also, this show definitely inspired Ultraman Blazer to some strange degree. Huh? What's that? Proof? Just trust me, bro. Our Detective Baseball Squad. So as you may or may not already know, Tsuburaya were doing some pretty wacky things while Ultraman wasn't airing. One of them was this fantastic piece of fiction, Our Detective Baseball Squad, where a team of junior league, I think that's how you'd say it, I don't know baseball that well, but a bunch of kid players go out and solve mysteries and stuff, because that was a trend in the 70s that definitely wasn't outdated and had run its course by 1980 when the show came out, to fight the evil Red Mantle. To be honest, the only reason I included this show in the list is to bring awareness to the fact it exists, and also to tell you all to listen to the ending theme, because it genuinely sounds like the singer is repeating "I'm Gandhi" over and over and over again, and I find that humorous. The 1979 live-action adaptation of Comet-san. Okay, so you're probably already somewhat familiar with the concept of Comet-san. It's like a magical girl manga that became an anime. Well, it got a live-action adaptation in 1979, and stuff happened in it, but literally, that doesn't even matter, because due to some crossover between staff members and goodwill between production companies due to these shared staff members, Ultra 7, Ultraman Taro, and Ultraman Leo show up in this show. And Ultra 7, knows Comet-san as her friend. And, Ultraman Taro, there's an entire, plot line where he gets a new human form on Earth and starts going out with Comet-san and then has to tragically leave. And then Ultraman Leo just, shows up and Ryumanatsu is there as Genotori in character. And he saves this kid from a weird fungal infection. And, Ape. Also known as King Kong's Great Counterattack, or Attack of the Giant Horny Gorilla if you're so inclined. Ape is a South Korean giant monkey movie that's, is not very good. I highly recommend watching this one with friends and just ripping it a new one. You can find such awesome feats such as the titular ape fighting a rubber shark, some of the single worst acting you are going to see in a movie, and a hell of a lot of 3D-ness. The movie really wants you to know it was filmed in 3D. There's so many moments that make it so obvious that it feels like this movie came out in 2009. But yes, if you know King Kong, it's just a bad King Kong movie that isn't a King Kong movie, even though it came out pretty much exactly the same time as the 1976 King Kong remake. Queen Kong. So this is another British kaiju movie, except this one is not good like Gorgo is. It's in fact a parody movie. Wow. With lots of humour that I either don't understand because it relates to things I don't know about, or is just not funny. This is one of the single worst parody movies I've seen, ever. I do not recommend. Just listen to the theme song. The theme song's actually the funniest part of the movie. How can you go wrong with lyrics like "She's the queenie queenie for my weenie"? Yeti, giant of the 20th century. So if you want to talk about a random combination of countries, here is an Italian-Canadian co-production giant monster movie. Sure, why not? So this rich business tycoon person finds a giant frozen Yeti man just in north of Quebec, and they decide, you know what? We watched King Kong recently. How about we do the thing they did in that movie? Surely nothing can go, oh wait, something goes wrong. So yeah, the Yeti gets out and starts, screwing things up for people. Except for these two kids who befriend the Yeti, but then it gets captured by people again, but then they set it free and it lives its life in the wilderness for the rest of time. This is another fun one to riff on. Sinbad, Alibaba, and Aladdin. This is a 2.5 hour long Bollywood movie. Obviously, things happen in much of the 2.5 hours, but unless you understand Hindi, I don't think you're going to get a lot out of the movie. But towards the end of the feature, there's just a spontaneous kaiju that shows up and starts attacking some of the characters, and they hide in a cave from it and things. I'm really clutching at straws here. Why did I even put this on the list anyway? For what purpose? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I'm done. I'm just gonna leave now. Woohoo. Poggers.
Level 6. Sebayoth. This is an indie series from Brazil that is very religious. Don't believe me? The full name is literally Sebayoth, the Army of the Lord. Premiering in 2008, this consists of a TV series that aired on local networks in Brazil and a handful of stage shows. BioKids. Released in 1990, BioKids is a low-budget Filipino Bioman parody which sees 5 kids get drugged and given superpowers such as X-ray vision, super strength, and the ability to act in horribly inappropriate jokes that I cannot describe in this video. Iron Armor Mizuki. Written by Toshiki Inui and airing once a month for 6 months starting in 2000, this is a giant robo-mecha series which sees mysterious and ancient forces clash as the fate of the universe is put in jeopardy. Filled with mechs, kaiju, and emotional drama, this miniseries had a ridiculously high budget, and it shows. Star Janga 2, Super Betaman vs. Mazinger 5. Released in 1990, this is the second entry in the Star Gianga series which parodies various media, such as Batman, Kamen Rider, Mazinger, and it follows all the same tropes as its 1988 predecessor does. Diamond Eye. Released in 1973, Warrior of Light Diamond Eye was created by Toho and Kohan Kawauchi. Running for 26 episodes, this sees a diamond spirit who inhabits a ring save a young reporter, and begins to battle the evil Zensei Majin. Josies. To battle against evil forces, Commander Charles calls upon 5 ordinary women who must work together to fight monsters. Why were they chosen? Because their family names also refer to colors. This is a Sentai parody which has a large focus on comedy, while reusing locations from Toku you may know. Ninja Squad Gecko. Released in 1964 and running for over 100 episodes, this sees a team of highly skilled ninjas fight against the many evil forces in our world. While Hawaii got Kikaida, Australia got Gecko, with the series becoming a sensation which is still fondly remembered. The Amazing Extraordinary Friends. When average teenager Ben Wilson is granted superpowers, he begins to learn what it means to be a hero, while making friends and enemies alike. This is the loose premise behind Amazing Extraordinary Friends, a series created in New Zealand which lampoons various superhero tropes while telling an earnest story for kids. Gigantic Archipelago Defender Carpio Man. A long time ago, there was a giant who protected the land. Now it's up to a father to take the mantle and protect the world. This Filipino ultra-like series tackled big issues such as jobs and language, while only being one short 20-minute pilot. Gagan Boy. Released in 2004, this follows Junie, an ice cream man who eats a spider which gives him superpowers. With his new web-slinging powers, he battles against a rival merchant with cockroach powers. Monster Seafood Wars. Released in 2020, this comedy kaiju film sees a seafood monster attack team to battle against a giant squid, octopus, and crab. This is an award-winning, loving parody made by Minoru Kawasaki, a name that will continue to appear on this list. Uchimura 7. This is a series of Ultra 7 sketch comedy parodies, released in 1993. Its version of the Ultra Guard and Seven himself are put in comedic situations, such as eating food, choking on food, and transforming with a giant red nose. Ultra Cyborg and Android Man. Created by Damon Foster in 1983 and made on low budgets, these short films see the cult director and notable Toku names such as August Ragone, August Dragon, and Steve Wang dress up and do battle. A special release of these were released on VHS a few years back, with this release being the only way to view the films, which is sold out. Mirage Man. A club bouncer dons the alter ego Mirage Man to battle injustices in this Chilean film, written and directed by Ernesto Diaz Espinoza. The titular hero is an ordinary man who seeks to do good after rescuing a news reporter and is thrust into fame and dangerous situations as a result. Cosplay Fetish Battle Drones. Created by Greg Golding, this 2013 film sees 6 teenagers, each suffering from emotional issues, create a tumor in the fabric of reality. This then gives them powers to counter their traumas and the forces which seeks to destroy reality. The heroes are given the name Struggled Reagans, which was the original name for this film. It's an obvious parody of Power Rangers with a surrealistic twist. Wanagion vs. Gameron. Released by Amapuro in 2000, this short came packaged with 2 kaiju figures first released in the 60s. It sees the 2 creatures, depicted through toys and puppets, battle in a construction area. At the end, after both dealing serious blows to each other, the 2 monsters die. Godzilla vs. the Netherlands? Created by Dutch filmmaker Sietske Jalingi, this short film released in 1996 and sees a very cheap-looking green Godzilla go on a rampage to the Netherlands. And by that, I mean he stomps on a bridge and smashes a windmill and leaves. Demi-King, the Sea Monster. Released in 2009 by Jolly Roger and Tornado Film, this film sees a young boy, Hiroshi Kameoka, stumble upon a message in a bottle, warning of the eventual arrival of a monster. Kameoka then decides to spend his life preparing to battle this monster. The creature never properly makes his arrival in the film, but is seen in dream sequences, and shots that showcase the creature is real. It's a coming-of-age film that utilizes kaiju, or their imminent arrival, to showcase friendship and ambitions. Kaito Harimau. Released in 1960, this was one of the first television series in Japan to air in full color. With 65 episodes, it follows the titular fast thief Harimano as he travels exotic regions and battles against forces who seek to do harm. Spycatcher J3. Released in 1965, this follows Shunsuke Dan, codename Agent J3, a member of the counter-conspiracy organization Tulip. This was an early entry into the spy action genre in the region, and is comparable to the original Mission Impossible series. By the way, yes, this does count as Tokusatsu. Outer Man. Created by Minoru Kawasaki, this 2015 film is a comedic parody and analysis of the giant hero genre. Disguising himself as a hero, an alien begins to brainwash Japan for its own nefarious intentions. Keen-eyed viewers will be able to spot many Tokusatsu alumni in this movie. Live-action Akuma-kun. In 1966, a series adapting the manga by Shigeru Mizuki was aired, which sees a young boy and a mysterious man encounter and battle ghosts and demons. Live-action Gegege no Kitaro. Released as a TV movie in 1985, this adaptation of Shigeru Mizuki's manga preceded the more famous 85 anime by only 2 months, though there were 2 different anime adaptations before that one. Kitaro receives a letter telling of a mysterious attack, which is attributed to yokai, and so ventures off to battle the spirits. Live-action Tetsuwan Atom. This series is the first adaptation of Osamu Tezuka's famous manga, and in fact one of the first manga TV adaptations ever made, following the robot boy in his many battles against bad robots, and those who use them for evil. The trade hair swoop is recreated with a very aged-looking plastic helmet. As you'd expect from television this old, not all of it can still be viewed today. Also, Tezuka reportedly really hated this one. Anime-chan. Made by Tsuburaya and released in 1984 in a double billing with the Ultraman story, this short film follows a young girl named Anime Ulala and her sister Manga as they meet 3 Tsuburaya kids monsters, Buska, Kanegon, and Pigmon. It's a short comedy film, with humor being created through the act of these monsters beginning to live in Anime-chan's home. Telomere. Released by Tsuburaya in 1998, Cybergirl Telomere follows a group of Espers who begin to unravel mysteries surrounding their powers, the disappearance of their friends, and a mysterious boy. Famous Ultra Series director Akio Jisoji had involvement with this project. Gato Kaka. Based loosely on the Hindu story of Mahabharat and the Indonesian deity, this sees a young man using a family heirloom to battle against forces that seek to kill his family and friends. This film sees gods begin to clash as good rises against evil. Tsuburaya's early Saturday wide trilogy. This entry refers to the TV Asahi Saturday morning drama programming block, which began in 1977. Tsuburaya would create content for this block, including heroes such as Telomere, and the trio of productions released from 78 to 80. Mysterious House of the Giant Spider, White Hand, Beautiful Hand, Cursed Hand, and Vengeful Spirit, Mocking Doll, Dangerous Window. These would be re-released in the EX Maniacs block in 2016. Footage of all these films is exceedingly hard to find, as Tsuburaya has never distributed them outside of limited TV airings. Otatsuki Girl. Released in 2003, this 6-episode Tsuburaya miniseries sees 3 high school girls in the Sunset Detective Club solve mysteries, with the main heroine, Riko, working both in her civilian form and a masked heroine form when things get tricky. Moon Spiral. Released in 1996, this 4-episode Tsuburaya-produced sci-fi horror miniseries follows a detective and his daughter fighting against the Moon Spiral organization, who seek to bring about the destruction of the world. Jaguar Man Pilot. Not to be confused with a different live-action Japanese show from the same time called The Jaguar Man. Created by P Productions in 1967, coasting off the success of Ultraman, Jaguar Man would have seen a jaguar-headed hero battle against giant beasts with an array of gadgets and fighting skills. This ultimately didn't go any further than the pilot, but P Pro did indeed get shows off the ground later that we've already discussed. Shonen Jet. Released in 1959, this is Daiei's first television tokusatsu adapting a manga from the same name. This follows Jet, a young boy and his dog Shane, who battle against numerous foes over its 83-episode run. Fighting with his trusty super cult, Detective Jet always gets his foes. Kosoku Esper. Airing in 1967 to 1968, Lightspeed Esper sees Hikaru Azuma, a superpowered suit, with the help of aliens who took the place and appearance of his dead parents to fight against the evils in this world. Tensar 5. Running for 34 episodes starting in 1979, Scientific Adventure Team Tensar 5 is a tokusatsu animation hybrid by Sunrise. This series sees a group of talented individuals brought together in the year 1999 to protect the world's ruins and treasures in their current time and in the past. Marine Kong. Released in 1960, this early kaiju series was created by Nissan Productions and tells 2 stories over 26 episodes. It follows a giant robotic reptile dubbed Marine Kong, who is controlled by the villainous Z gang and the terror that ensues, and a struggle to control the giant robot. This is another one with very limited known surviving footage. Messenger of Allah. Released in December of 1960, and created by Yasunori Kawauchi, this series is set in a fictionalized Middle East, with a turban-wearing hero aiding heir to the throne Coconut and his sister Mami to look for lost treasures. It ran for 26 episodes, although it is now partially lost. Gogola. This is a 1966 Indian monster movie that is now considered lost media. The plot is very similar to that in The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Totsugeki Human. Released in 1972, an alien disguised as a human teacher trains children to aid him in a fight against an invading alien foe. This series was the result of another series of live shows being recorded for broadcast throughout the latter part of 1972, although this is now almost entirely lost. Majin Bonder. Created by NMC Productions in 1969, this 13-episode series is about the military efforts to stop an alien invasion. Only 3 episodes are archived, all of which are very red. Thunder Mask. Released by Toyo in 1972, Thunder Mask is a partially lost Ultra-like show that ran for 26 episodes. The hero, Thunder Mask, came to Earth to fight against the evil alien, the Devil Dekanda. Jungle Prince. Running for 26 episodes in 1970, this series is currently lost media, with all that remains being images and the theme song. It was the last ever piece of tokusatsu media shot in black and white, as far as we know. Live-action Hatari-kun. Based on the classic 60s manga by Fujiko Fujio, this entry is referring to the 1966 live-action drama adaptation. This ran for 52 episodes over 2 seasons. In 2004, a live-action movie called Nin Nin was released. Daiei's Killer Whale. Released in 1962, this is an adaptation of a 1961 novel entitled The Whale God, which sees a man who, after the loss of his family, vows revenge on a whale. It was released by SRS Cinema in 2023. Sompote Sans / Chayo's original kaiju movies. Besides the Ultraman and unlicensed Kamen Rider movie brought up way back in Tier 3, Kaiju Productions created their own range of kaiju movies, including Crocodile, Magic Lizard, and Giant. The movie that introduced a character who would have crossover with Jump Borghese and the aptly titled Jump Borghese and Giant. Most of these movies were directed by the same person as the Ultraman Rider ones. Known enemy of every Ultraman fan ever, the late Sampote Sangurukai, aka Sampote Sans. Undersea Man 8823. Released in 1960, this is an entry into Daiei's television superhero series. It ran for 26 episodes and follows Isamu, who one day finds Hayabusa, and together they battle the evil Black Star Gang. Eiji Tsuburaya's World War II movies. Much like other filmmakers of his time, Eiji Tsuburaya created films for Imperial Japan's wartime propaganda. The effects work, while crude, holds up in most cases. This led to his work being reused and re-edited into various films by Toho following the end of the war. One of the most prolific films he was attached to was The War at Sea, From Hawaii to Malaya, a film that depicts the naval action of Japan from 1937 to 1942. The time where Tsuburaya worked on this is touched on more in the video History of Godzilla by Dawn and Ferbus on this channel. The Invincible Space Streaker. What better way to close out than with this Taiwanese 1977 Wu-Tang fever dream with a particularly interesting title. It sees some kids getting kidnapped to be transformed into animals, or something like that, when one becomes a cow-looking hero of justice that steals Ultraman Taro's theme song to battle via monsters with their golden hula hoop. There's also a lot more peeing of pants than I feel comfortable with on the name of teaching the moral of behave yourself or else. I need to fire whoever added this one on here. Marcosatsu and DawnBreaker. My unpaid volunteer DawnBreaker plays with his plushies. That's Tokusatsu sometimes.
It's real popcorn.